Our top story tonight, health officials across the United States, including right here in Georgia, now urgently monitoring passengers who return from the cruise ship at the dead center of the deadly hantavirus outbreak. The Georgia Department of Public Health says 2 Georgia residents who are on board the MV Hondius have returned home and are being monitored, though both are currently in good health and showing no symptoms. State health officials would not release where in Georgia the 2 passengers are located, just telling WSAV that sharing that information could compromise their privacy. There are at least reports that one of the 2 passengers is now back home in Brunswick. Georgia is one of at least 5 states, along with Arizona, California, Texas, and Virginia, who are tracking residents on the luxury expedition ship. The World Health Organization says 3 people have now died, 5 confirmed cases, and 3 suspected infections linked to the outbreak so far. Health officials say the virus involves the rare Andes strain of hantavirus, which can spread through close person-to-person contact. Though officials stress the risk to the general public does remain low.
There are no FDA-approved treatments. Although there are some meds with some data that may work, like ribavirin, there's no FDA-approved treatments. And again, supportive care is very important, but it can be very lethal, and that's why there's cause for concern, and that's why the Department of Public Health is going to have to keep a very close eye on these individuals.
For now, health leaders emphasize this is a serious but contained situation and not the start of a broader epidemic. A Savannah woman's going to spend years in federal prison after admitting to setting fire to a rooming house that was filled with people. 50-year-old Tamika Mumford was sentenced to 7 years behind bars for an October 2024 fire on Capitol Street. That one injured 4 people. Investigators say security video showed Mumford lighting a mattress outside an open kitchen window, then adding more material to that fire. Mumford was also serving 5 years of supervised release after her prison term. New at 6, a routine traffic stop in Metter has now turned into a much larger investigation. This comes after police say they discovered a drone capable of carrying contraband. Metter police say an officer first spotted an SUV going over 100 miles an hour on Interstate 16. Authorities say the driver ran, reaching speeds of more than 130 miles an hour before stopping. 25-year-old Jeffrey Burton of Savannah was taken into custody. He faces multiple charges, including fleeing police, reckless driving, drug possession, and firearm offenses. Now, during the arrest, officers say they discovered a large red-top drone inside the vehicle. Police Chief McKinley Lewis say the drone was capable of traveling up to 15 miles and carrying up to 30 pounds and was equipped with a hook system that could be used to transport and drop contraband. The Georgia Department of Corrections now working with Metter Police as investigators look into possible connections to illegal operations across the state. And a man tied to a string of violent crimes in Beaufort County will now spend decades behind bars after a plea deal in court this week. Prosecutors say in 2022, Shaquem Wright robbed the gas station on Ladies Island Drive and shot the clerk 3 times. Officials say that incident part of a series of serious crimes that Wright committed in the area. Now, you might remember Wright later tracked down and arrested in Marietta, Georgia, outside Atlanta. On Tuesday, Wright pleaded guilty to multiple charges, including attempted murder and 3 counts of armed robbery. A judge has now sentenced him to 35 years in prison. Southeast Georgia has been hit hard by a series of wildfires, as well as house fires and brush fires over the past several weeks, which left hundreds of homes destroyed and many residents still trying to figure out exactly what comes next. WSAV's Jillian Coles is here. She's getting answers for those facing that fire tragedy. You've got some good information about insurance specialists giving you help.
Yes, Andrew, many families across Southeast Georgia are working to rebuild. Insurance experts say if you have homeowners insurance, accidental fire damage is covered, and filing a claim could help you fully recover.
Matt Hall with Beach Insurance Group says many fire victims in Southeast Georgia have damage that call for a total loss insurance claim. That's when the cost of the repairs are close or exceed the policy limits.
Those are the quickest payouts. So when you have home insurance, you have contents coverage, and then you also have loss of use, where they put you up in a hotel room while they're rebuilding your house.
Contents coverage is a reimbursement to cover the value of the items that were inside or used to care for the home, like lawn mowers. He says this also goes for any unattached properties, like garages.
If your house was insured at $300,000, usually you would get 10%, which is $30,000 for any kind of other structures, anything not attached by a wall or roof line.
And with those payments being set in your policy, situations with total loss don't need documentation of items inside. For those who aren't facing total damage, documentation is essential to help you replace those valuables.
If you're trying to get out ahead of stuff and remove debris and stuff like that yourself, I would make sure you're documenting all that, taking photos, because the insurance company wants to see what was destroyed.
He says plans may also cover smoke damage. And for those who haven't experienced a fire tragedy but want to protect themselves, Hall says you should start by getting a copy of your insurance policy and have your agent give you a rundown.
The best thing to do is just have the right insurance and then be prepared financially.
Hall says once you receive your claim or your check, be careful of who you help hire to help you rebuild. He says never hand that money to anyone until that rebuild project has begun. Jillian Coles, WSAV News 3 on your side.
Jillian, thanks so much. Good information. Well, developers opposing a proposed golf course and residential community on St. Helena Island say the legal fight should continue, arguing that it raises racial concerns. The developers of the Pine Island project have filed a new federal lawsuit claiming the Cultural Protection Overlay District is unconstitutional and too vague. The zoning rule has been in place since 1999 and has long restricted developments like resorts, golf courses, and gated communities. Now, developers seeking to overturn the CPO, alleging the county is enforcing a race-conscious zoning scheme that limits land use to preserve the Gullah Geechee community. A federal judge denied a previous challenge back in March. And the South Carolina House will consider changes to the state's congressional districts tomorrow morning. A 9 a.m. hearing is set in Columbia after a party line vote in the House yesterday, moving the process forward, potentially leading to a special session to redraw the Palmetto State map. This proposal would allow lawmakers to return after the legislative session ends to consider changes to the state's congressional district map. The measure passed by an 87-27 vote and now moves to the South Carolina Senate. If it's approved, the change would amend the General Assembly's Sindai resolution, which currently limits what lawmakers can take up once the regular session adjourns. Now, the renewed debate follows a recent ruling from the United States Supreme Court in Louisiana redistricting rule, where the court struck down a majority black district and raised questions about the role of race in drawing congressional lines. South Carolina's 6th congressional district, currently represented by Jim Clyburn, was originally shaped in the 1990s as a majority black district under Voting Rights Act era guidance. State maps were later withdrawn in 2021, last withdrawn in 2020, and later upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court in 2024 after legal challenges. The Senate left today without taking up any redistricting issues. Now, to take effect, any proposal still needs a 2/3 vote in both chambers of the General Assembly. As Mother's Day approaches, experts are also pointing to a growing concern that often goes unspoken: maternal mental health. Now, data shows that over the last decade, mental health among mothers in the United States has declined. Experts say stigma remains a major barrier, keeping many women from speaking up or seeking help, often leading to isolation. The creators of the Maternal Mental Health Collective in Savannah say that isolation can actually have serious impacts not only on mothers, but on their families as well. They say support systems, access to care are key, along with making time for self-care despite daily demands.
The issue for working moms is really hard to have a child and then have to go back to work so quickly, and then navigating childcare, which is a concern, and going back to work, and people just don't have time, and it becomes a how do I balance all these things?
Always ask moms how they're feeling, what do they need, and how can you show up for them?
A local group, Nurture Community, meets every Saturday at noon at Tiedemann Park in Savannah to provide peer support for mothers. For more information and additional resources, you can just visit our website.